Anxiety only ever comes from anxious thoughts. It doesn't exist without anxious thoughts. So I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, acute panic disorder and depression, and I literally have none of those now.
Sarie Taylor, from down and out suffering mental health problems
to founding Worldwide Wellbeing.
When I say I hadn't shut my eyes and slept for over a week, I literally had not slept.
You're happy to go into it. I'd love to talk about more recent experiences, cancer diagnosis.
When I got diagnosed with cancer, I didn't have a panic attack, but it was extremely overwhelming to hear those words. But I've gone through the last year of all of that now, and I've not had one single panic attack.
Why?
If you are present, fear does not exist.
It's always on a imagined what.
It's
what
made
if,
up.
what if.
You are making stuff up all day long.
Those that don't already know you, do you want to just talk about the work you have done?
One of the things I adore about the work that I do is that it changes lives in the sense of somebody can go from being agoraphobic, not wanting to leave the house, to going on a flight and going on holiday. I'll always help people with anxiety and panic because I hate people suffering with it because it's so unnecessary. But also, I like people who are high achieving, successful, who on paper have got everything, but are just in their heads too much.
So what were some of the fundamental differences between that school of thought and the new one?
Really, the approach I'm coming from is
Sarie, welcome to the show. I am expecting this to be one of the most honest, vulnerable, messy,
definitely messy,
genuinely authentic, because we're going to touch upon authentic
we are.
episodes that I've done. And I think for that reason, it's going to be one of the most important episodes that we've done.
Yeah.
One of the things that really strikes me about you is how your level of openness, but also your calmness. And that's something we're going to touch upon. And I think for context, it's really important to maybe share a little bit of your background and a bit of your story.
Yeah.
I believe in your 20s, you was actually hospitalised from having anxiety.
I was, yeah.
Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
So it was in my early 20s and I'd been off to uni, I'd been travelling the world, and I'd been having what felt like a great time. And then within the space of about 3 weeks, I literally would not leave the house. So I went and moved back in with my mum. And then after a couple of weeks of that 3 weeks, I wouldn't even let my mum leave the house. So she was pretty much a prisoner in her own home, because if she went to the local shops for bread and milk, say, I would have to sit in the car with her, wait outside the shop. I would be having a panic attack the whole time, crying my eyes out, to then come back with her. So I wouldn't let her leave the house. And it was at that stage where I thought, I cannot go on like this. It's not fair on my mum more than anything. So
What was the catalyst?
So when I look back now, it was a build-up over a period of time. I was the type of person that you would meet and you go, oh, she's so confident, she's so out there. And as you said at the beginning, there's a calmness to me now that wasn't there before, but there was certainly a confidence there.
I know you've said before, gobby.
I was gobby.
You'd be described as
mouthy. People were a bit scared of me when I was younger, but I wasn't horrible to people, but they were a bit like, oh, she's so sure of herself type thing. And I used to have headaches a lot. I'd feel probably dizzy. For years, I thought, oh, I've got a hormonal imbalance. There's something physically wrong with me. But actually, looking back now, I was anxious, but I just didn't realise I was anxious. And then that escalated very, very quickly. And I pretty much begged the doctor to send me somewhere because I didn't feel safe on my own. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I ended up in A&E a few times thinking there was something, which is quite common when people have got anxiety. And then in the end, I just begged and said, my mum needs a break and I don't know what to do. So someone just needs to help me, basically.
Where was the anxiety coming from?
Anxiety only ever comes from anxious thoughts. It doesn't exist without anxious thoughts. The feeling only comes from those thoughts. And I always remember driving to the hospital. My mum so I'd have to go and pack my bags and stuff, and then driving me there. And my mum, as a last-ditch attempt, bless her, in the car's like, what is it, love? Is it your relationship? Because I was with my husband that I'm with now. Is it your relationship? Is it work? What is it that's making it? And I actually was honestly like, I have no clue. My relationship's great. Work's all right. And that's why I thought it had to be something physically going on, something physically, that was just happening to me, because I did feel like everything in my life was okay. But what I didn't realise at the time, I was obsessively overthinking everything.
Right.
That's what it was.
And where was that coming from?
I think I've always done that. He was a young child, eldest of 5, very typical, eldest of 5.
So there's a responsibility there.
Yeah, and again, it's like my parents didn't tell me I needed to worry about everybody else, but I just took upon that role myself. My dad was an alcoholic, so he was a nightmare. My mum, so I just took on a lot of right, I need to be the sensible one. I need to make sure everybody else is okay. And as I say, they didn't ask me, but that's what I did. And it just continued without me realising throughout my whole life, where I was probably very rarely present, ever, when I look back now, ever. And overproducing adrenaline, then went into years and years of therapy, and was told by most professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, that you'll just have to learn to manage your anxiety. You're always going to be anxious, and because you've got high levels of adrenaline in your system now, that's probably always going to be the way. And it was just something in me then. I was like, I'm not fucking having that.
Yeah.
That's not true. Why would it be like that? There's got to be a way. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a different experience. And thankfully, now I am experiencing that different experience.
So take us on that journey then.
Okay.
So hospitalised in your 20s.
Yep.
Basically told you need to, excuse me if I'm paraphrasing, but my interpretation is you need to learn to just live with this, manage it more effectively, but it won't go away.
Yeah, you'll probably always be on medication your whole life. You just need to learn to manage it because you've experienced trauma in your childhood. It's just the way that you are now. And, I don't begrudge any of those professionals, because even as a trained psychotherapist myself, that was my belief too, is that we just learn to manage these things. And now I see it differently. So I was diagnosed with all sorts. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, acute panic disorder, and depression. And I literally have none of those now. But you could go out and ask 10 professionals now, excuse me, if they're diagnosis that you can get rid of, and they'll probably tell you no.
So basically, you've defied the laws of physics
gravity.
And gravity. You are alphabet. So you're a miracle, marvel, medical.
No, I'm not. This is the thing. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
So talk us through, as you say there, you became pretty qualified then. You went on a bit of a journey of not just being a psychotherapist, but I know there's like CPD, NLP, hypnotherapy.
Yeah, all of the letters.
You got them all. You collected them. You're like
Collected.
Pokemon. Collect them all.
Like, this will be the one. This will be the one that will fix me. This will be the one.
And is that why you was doing it?
Absolutely.
It was first and foremost trying to find that answer.
Oh, I was no desire to help other people earlier in life at all. I was in sales. I just wanted to earn shitloads of money. I didn't care for helping people.
Wow. Okay.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I went into that because I needed to fix myself so I could keep earning loads of money. And that, that was my mission. I remember being very early 20s, I need to earn £1 million. I'm going to be a millionaire. That was my sole focus.
Why?
My dad was a millionaire. And I think also it came from, well, if I'm going to be frigging responsible for everybody, I've got to at least have the money to secure us and back us up and take care of us. So it was a security thing for me. It was a need to have money in order to not just make sure I'm okay, but make sure everybody else is okay. Because I really saw that money, we grew up believing that money was the only thing that made life work. So my dad would use money in a way that he would buy people with money.
Right.
Even as kids, and I can say this because he's not here, so he won't be listening to it. But he would go off on a bender for weeks, and then he'd come back, and the way that he'd win us over in inverted commas, it'd say take us to a shopping centre, even with our friends, would be with us, and he'd say, right, go in the shop. I'll meet you at the till in half an hour, get what you want. And he'd go and he'd spend thousands in one shop. Wow. So that was everything's all right now.
And how old were you?
That was throughout my whole childhood. But from remembering was probably when I was in secondary school, and my mates thought my dad was amazing.
Of course, yeah.
First takeaways they ever had, my house. First time they went out to a restaurant, through my dad. Everyone thought my dad was amazing. I got a brand new car on the drive when I was age 17. Had all of these things, but the irony is, I just wanted a bit of normality. I took the stuff because I'm like, right, I'll have it. If that's all I'm going to get, I'll have it. But I would have traded any of that just for sit around and have a Sunday dinner and feel secure and safe, and would have traded it any day. But I took it. And then it kind of drove me to think, well, if everything goes to shit, if you've got money, it's not so bad.
What do you think it did deep down with your relationship with money?
It made me like money in a way, in the sense that it gave something that you could always have a level of stability, even if everything else was awry. You'd be all right with money.
Yeah, that was the constant safety.
It was the safety net. And also, very much, one of the things I take from what my dad said, used to always say to me, and I still live by this a bit now, is that you only get what you pay for. So I never go for cheap. I don't necessarily always go for the most expensive, but I am very much like, you do get what you pay for. You know, even like investing in business coaches, I invested in working with Lisa Johnson, and I could tell you the second I handed over that money, I upped my game. She didn't need to do nothing.
Just that relationship of handing over that
Just
amount.
that money is like, I have invested in myself. I now need to take accountability.
I agree with that. I think I've had those experiences where when it's a big chunk, you're like, right, I have to make this work now.
Yeah.
But it's just a psychological thing,
well,
really.
Because it's all inside out. You can go to somebody and say, "Here's my money, help make me better." It's like, it's going to come from the inside out, regardless. People pay me to feel better.
Why don't we do it without paying?
Because
what's wrong with us?
Yeah. So people will come to me and pay me to help them feel better. As soon as they hand over the money, they're instantly feeling a bit better because they're like, it's hope.
Taken action.
It's a hope of like something's going to change.
Yeah. I'm doing something, I'm being committed, I'm making a change.
Yeah. And money drives a lot of stuff, doesn't it? It drives a lot of things like that. And money makes the world go round, as they say. But it doesn't make you happy.
Okay, so let's go deeper into your findings then, with all these different qualifications now. And as you say, like a big driving force was trying to get to the bottom. I guess it's almost like a stubborn determination, maybe, to prove that diagnosis wrong and say, I'm not going to be defined by it. I'm going to find answers, right? Yeah,
because everybody around me, even my friends, were like, it was like an ongoing thing where they were like, joke of like, how did you end up in the mental hospital out of all of us? Like, you're so confident, nothing phases you. How did you end up there? So it was almost a bit like, people like me don't end up in places like this. What's happened? You know? So there was that, but also there was a softer side to me, deep down, where I was like, I want to have a family. I imagine myself being a mum, and I can't go and be a mum when I'm on, antidepressants, beta blockers, Valium 4 times a day. So I need to find a way to not be on all of this stuff. Because again, when I left the hospital, there was no even plan of me reducing medications. I was so heavily medicated. I felt like a zombie.
Wow.
So I thought, I can't continue like this, so I need to figure out a way. And also, I didn't want to lose my husband, and he's stood by me through everything. He's amazing. He's an absolute saint, to be honest. But at the time, I thought, if I don't sort myself out, he's going to go. He's still here. Bless him, waiting for me to change.
Still waiting.
Yeah. So there was that driver. So I started to look into, the reason I started to do the transactional analysis psychotherapy, which is what I trained in initially, was because you had to be in personal therapy every week. And so for me, that was a no-brainer. It was like, I can tell people I'm in therapy and be out and proud about it because I'm training as a therapist, when actually I was really embarrassed about the fact that I needed help.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that I see so often now. And I wish if we could just all be honest and open to the fact that we are all equally resilient and capable. Yes, we can take ourselves off in a really unhelpful direction, overthinking all of that. But if we were able to more open that, yes, we all struggle at times because we have an innocent misunderstanding or we've got caught up in something, and to not have to hide it, it'd be so much easier because everybody would see everybody as an equal.
When you now, and for context, at that point when you're on this journey of figuring this out, how much medication are you on? How often are you having panic attacks? Like, how bad was it at that time?
So before I went into hospital, when I say I hadn't shut my eyes and slept for over a week, I might have dozed for minutes at a time. Like I literally had not slept. You wouldn't think it was possible, but that is what escalated it so severely, so quickly. And I always would say, that phrase, climbing the walls, that literally I was in this room going, do I climb on this table? Do I get out this window? I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. It was that bad. So that's when I was having panic attacks literally every hour on the hour. I couldn't have telly on. I couldn't have noise. If somebody knocked on the door, like the hypervigilance was off the scale.
Hang on, every hour on the hour?
For weeks. For weeks.
So it's literally as severe as it gets?
I don't believe there's any... I tell you, that probably people would say the next level would have been psychosis.
And how long did this go on? You say weeks?
So the severity of that was a couple of weeks,
yeah,
intensely. And then as soon as they then medicated me, because if you go on an antidepressant, actually it can make your anxiety worse for a while before it gets into your system and settles.
Oh, jeez.
So they gave me those, and then they just gave me a load of things to help me sleep. But I didn't, even on Valium, I did not sleep, which you think is impossible. But it's not impossible, because the power of our thought is that we can override anything if we're overthinking. So I would take that sleeping tablet at night. I'd lie there going, I don't like taking these tablets. Are they going to make me worse? What if I don't sleep? And my adrenaline was just completely counteracting that medication.
I think what's so fascinating, and I didn't realise the severity, is how you are such, and from my experience getting to know you, is you are literally the polar opposite. And for context, and I know, if you're happy to go into it, I'd love to talk about your more recent experiences, the cancer diagnosis. How many years has it been that you've not had a single panic attack?
So it's been 11 years now.
Without a single panic attack?
Without a single panic attack. I have gotten myself overwhelmed and feeling a bit anxious, but feeling anxious does not scare me anymore. It doesn't scare me, which is why it wouldn't escalate into a panic attack. I got a little bit overwhelmed when I found out I was pregnant at 45.
I think anyone would.
That was a bit of a shock.
I think you're allowed to there.
It's a little bit scary. But
Wow.
Again, it lasted for a couple of days where I felt like, on edge, and that was it. And then obviously when I got diagnosed with cancer, I didn't have a panic attack, but it was extremely overwhelming to hear those words you don't expect to hear. So, of course, it was overwhelming. But I've gone through the last year of all of that now, and I've not had one single panic attack.
Why?
Because I really genuinely, truly understand the human experience. And so I know that it's not possible for me to feel panic unless I am placing focus and attention on thoughts that scare me and making them my reality.
So, but understanding that intellectually, in theory, is one thing.
Yeah.
How are you able to emotionally, on a deeper level, live that?
Because I've been exploring it and I've been learning and I've been working with other coaches that I first came across all of this. And it's just remaining curious and open-minded to the human experience and seeing it. But again, somebody had to point me in the direction in the first place and saying, this is really how the human experience works. And it was just learning over time that I remember the first time I realised something had really clicked as I was doing an event and I was putting on an event, and I would be the person that people would not know this. I'd walk out into an event, but 5 minutes before I'd have been in the toilet throwing up because I was so nervous to the point where I could barely stand. I'd get myself in that room with blurry vision to the front of that room, start speaking, and then I would settle. Now, for me, that is kind of like, that was just the norm. And then I remember once I was in this, I'd been exploring it and starting to think, well, actually, maybe there's something in this. And then I remember I was doing an event and I was waiting for people to turn up, and I could notice that my thoughts were there, like going and going and going, but my body wasn't reacting. I'm like, this is weird. Why am I not stressed?
Wow.
Why do I not feel this thinking? And it's because I understood, well, it's just thought. And it's very easy for me to say with my understanding, it's just thought. But it is just thought.
So the first step is awareness.
So it's awareness. It's about being curious and open-minded. So when I work with people, It's for me to say, right, I'm going to share some stuff with you initially, and we're going to just explore and get curious about your experience. And I want you to be open-minded that you're going to see something that you maybe didn't see before. That's all it takes.
So what you're getting them to do is break the pattern, because I guess we get ingrained in us our identity. So, for example, you could have taken what that doctor said and said, this is me. It will not change.
Yeah. I'm an
there
anxious
is
person.
no cure.
Yeah.
Full stop, the
Yeah.
end. And in those conversations, what you're getting them to do is say, let's just relax that belief a little bit. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
But let's explore, right?
Yeah. Let's explore how thoughts even work. How did we get an identity? How do we get a belief? People say, I've got deep-rooted beliefs. How does a thought get deep-rooted? It doesn't. You just keep bringing it back into your awareness.
So it's that repetition.
Yeah, it's habits. A lot of it's habits. We have habits all day long, and it's so simple. It's almost so simple that people can't handle the simplicity of it, that they want to overcomplicate it. And my job, which is great, is just keep going, let's go back to basics. Let's simplify, because that's where the magic happens.
And just, again, for those that don't already know you, do you want to just talk about the work you have done, the sort of people you've helped, and also the scale on which you've helped people now?
Okay, so I started out in the beginning very much like one-to-one on personal level with people. And, people that... One of the things I adore about the work that I do is that it changes lives in the sense of somebody can go from being agoraphobic, not wanting to leave the house, to going on a flight and going on holiday. Somebody, again, where it really warms my heart is because this was a bit me. When somebody wants to have a family or have kids but feels like their anxiety can't let that happen, and so they don't. I would have loved loads of kids. I had one, and then when I had my first 18 years ago, I was so severely anxious and depressed with her that it put me off forever and ever. Then accidentally, well, not totally accidental because I know how babies are made.
Yeah.
But 45, I had a baby then. It's like, oh, and actually my experience with her has been wonderful.
Yeah.
She's a little bugger, but it's, I haven't been anxious with her. And I think, so for me to help people have a very different experience of life. And then as we evolve as people, as you know, I then started working with people in business because I was going to stop myself saying this, but I'm going to be really honest. I'll always help people with anxiety and panic because I hate people suffering with it because it's so unnecessary. But also I like people who are high achieving, successful, who on paper have got everything, but are just in their heads too much because I know how life changing that can be.
Yeah,
I know that everything comes to you with much more ease when you're not in your head.
And I also think, just to your point there about the sort of people you're working with, arguably that can be, it's probably wrong to say like one's worse than the other, but I often think about if you have been ambitious and you've chased all the metrics for success, you've had the marriage, the children, the money, the house, whatever those things are that we're told will bring us fulfillment and happiness, and then we're still not happy, and then we're still anxious, and then we still don't feel good enough. Like, what next?
Yeah, and that's the thing when we're jumping too far ahead. Like, I will be happy when I have this. I will be successful when I have this. And for me, what I love about working with people who are high achieving and successful is my job is to go, I want you to wake up every fucking morning and enjoy what you're doing. I don't want you to want Friday to be here because you're stressed and overwhelmed and your to-do list is massive. I want you to be able to enjoy the process as you go along because life is short and you don't know. I had a very, very sad situation where I worked with a couple many years ago, and a lot of talking with them was about, having a 5-year plan, and he ended up sadly getting murdered.
Oh, wow.
And so this whole driver of like in 5 years, it's all great to plan. There's nothing wrong with planning and having strategy, but if we're not enjoying it in the moment, day to day, week by week, sadly, it may just all be pulled from underneath you at any point anyway.
This episode is sponsored by Laura Robson and Back Pocket Office. Now, let me tell you about this one. Laura is somebody you need in your life. I have got her in my life, and all I can say about her is I don't know how I'd live without her. And it's true. If you're anything like me, you will hate tech. You'll be great at launching and creating the marketing material and delivering on the actual product that you're selling. But when it comes to the back end, making sure it's all automated and it all works. I just can't be bothered. And if you're the same, Laura is the solution. Laura is a systems strategist and she's also a certified launch and funnel specialist. And if you are a service provider, if you're a coach, consultant, any kind of online business that provides some kind of online service, then Laura is there to help sort out all your funnels and systems for you. With over 14 years experience, she's somebody who's going to get you solutions quick. She's easy to speak to, very approachable, and just really friendly and nice, basically. So if you are ready to get your systems and your funnels all sorted for you and work with one of the best in the business, go check out backpocketoffice.co.uk and connect with Laura on socials. The links are literally right below this episode in the show notes. Go click it, and I mean this. Go and do it now. You will not regret it.
Right, so I mean, there's just so much I want to talk about, Sarie, because this is.
I can see you getting sat
I'm
up. You're like,
I'm like, there isn't enough time to get through all this. Right, so let's try and go through this methodically. First and foremost, then, let's just take it back a moment. So, you've said it's quite simple.
it's very simple.
And you've said it starts with awareness. Mm-hmm. But I think for any of us listening to this, to hear having those panic attacks on the hour, every hour, not sleeping for the, like, to then being able to literally master this. And I say that in the sense that you're still human, you still feel emotions, but no panic attacks in 11 years. What was that first few steps like, where you was like, just give us that bit of the journey, because I think it's easy to just step past that.
Yeah. So the first bit was, I didn't, some people understanding this stuff can have a big epiphanies, life-changing moments like, oh my God, I've just seen something, and you know, it's a big moment. It wasn't like that for me.
And I think we always expect it would be, because that's how the
Wasn't like
movies
that
tell
for
it,
me.
right?
Yeah. I think some people can hit really rock bottom and have an epiphany.
Okay.
Where they feel like they're totally in the gutter and they give in and they surrender, and then all of a sudden their wisdom comes through and it's like, oh, right, this is what I need to do. It wasn't like that for me. It was much more gradual. And to be honest, it was more gradual for me because I'd trained as a psychotherapist. I thought I knew it all about mental health.
Right.
I was like, well, this is what you need to do. We need to do this theory and we need to analyse this. And so I had to really unlearn a lot of stuff. Much to the dismay of my colleagues and peers, as you can well imagine. I was like the black sheep of the, off you go. You cannot, why would you do that? Why would you abandon psychotherapy that you've worked so hard for? But I got to a point where I cannot continue to work in this way when I know there's a much simpler way. And the only way that was effective for me in terms of getting change. So the beginning, I think if you had to start with any of it, it's really just getting curious about thought and how you experience your thinking, moment to moment, day to day, and how everything is perception.
So I think with that, it's about intention. Like, you've got to intentionally go, right, the first step is I'm going to now notice my thought. I'm going to be curious about my thought. Because I think, to your point you were mentioning earlier, we build patterns that just become automatic. Yeah.
But that's why it can be helpful to have somebody who has a good understanding of this to coach and direct you, because what will happen is, I'll tell you exactly what will happen, and people go to notice their thoughts. They'll become obsessed about noticing their thoughts.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that becomes a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I noticed that thought. Oh, what does that mean? How do I stop it? How do I get rid of it? And
am I a bad person?
They'll come to me with a million questions.
Yeah.
But this happened, and it's like, let's just step out of that again. Yeah. Let's just step away from that. And it's noticing the neutrality of thought. So let's use a really basic example. So you're sat on that chair. Okay, that is a fact. Well, is it a fact? I could say, well, you're slouching or you're leaning, so even that can be perception.
So we can add that, yeah.
Anything on that, I can say, it's a nice chair, it's a comfy chair, it's cream, it's everything's perception. You can go, well, it's not that comfy. I don't think it's that comfy. We're having our very own unique experience of everything. And the more that we see that, and the power of thought. So another thing I like to say to people is, if you might have heard me say this before, you look around this room and imagine if you licked the furniture or the walls, what that would taste like or feel like. You can imagine, like, you can, in your mind now, you can imagine what that feels like to lick it. You've never licked that wall before.
Well, actually.
That is the power of thought. Like, our senses, we have a thought that's neutral. It comes in from, people say, oh, control your thoughts. You can't control your thoughts. when you're asleep at night, right, and you're dreaming, you're not in charge of those thoughts coming in your dreams. It's the same in the day. The only difference is your level of awareness.
Right.
And so therefore you'll pick some out. You'll pick that thought and you'll focus on that one, and yet they're still, just like in your dreams, just randomly coming in.
So again, what I'm hearing is it's a almost like pattern we've created on how we choose the thoughts. And for some of us, I guess, it's really not serving us.
Yeah, it's where we place our focus. And the other part of this learning is your state of mind at the time. When you're in a low state of mind, low mood, which might be, you could be hormonal, you could be tired, whatever it is, or just the fact that as human beings, our state of mind and mood fluctuates. Some people call it level of consciousness, but it fluctuates. When we're in a lower state of mind, we are much more likely to have insecure thoughts that really seduce us to pay attention to. You can have that same thought in a higher state of mind where you've got much more clarity of thinking. You're not going to give it a second's thought. You're going to just leave it well alone. So again, people think, I've mastered this thought thing. And then they're like, well, I've mastered it, but then I felt really anxious the other day. And it's like, yeah, because your state of mind has probably dropped. And then this thought's felt more compelling.
Right.
And you've been seduced by it.
So what's the work then? The first step for you is being curious.
Curious and
challenging
open-minded, and just being open-minded to the fact that you maybe don't know it all. You don't know what's going to happen.
And that being okay, right?
And that is wonderful. I love that I don't know. I used to be the biggest control freak, hence why I was anxious.
Yeah.
And the reason people experience me as calm now is because I'm not in control of anything. I don't want to be. I don't need to be. That is the big difference. And people are like, you can't just wing life. I'm not totally winging it, but because I'm not trying to control every minute detail and thought, I'm much more able to hear my wisdom and my gut instinct, which guides me perfectly.
Even just me embracing that, what you said then, I just felt like a sigh of relief.
It's life-changing.
Just let that control go.
We think we're in control, but we're not.
So by default, trying to control it is the problem itself.
Yes, everything's about control, because control is us trying to predict the future. That's where the fear is. You cannot be fearful if you are not trying to predict the future. If you are present, fear does not exist.
It's always on a imagine what.
It's
what
made
if,
up.
what if.
You are making stuff up all day long. You are creating illusion after illusion after illusion.
So when, I think for like the everyday person, they can kind of go, okay, kind of makes sense. It's something I can work on. But when people are in positions where they're as severe as you were, how do you help people really start to do this work so that they actually make it life-changing like you did? Because, I mean, you've helped a lot of people now. Do you want to just like give us a bit of an idea of how many people you've helped through
Probably
your work?
Thousands. I'm really fortunate in that I get to work with thousands of people all over the world because I have like my membership and I've done one-to-one for many years. I've run lots of courses. The other thing that I feel like compelled to say now, in case people are listening, is people are on medication for anxiety or things like that. The last thing I would want them to think is, oh, I need to not be on medication. I'm not doing this right. Medication has saved my life on numerous occasions.
Right, okay.
Now, when you are in such a low state of mind, when you have been, often people get depressed when they're anxious because they're exhausted from being anxious, and having panic attacks is exhausting. And so that will affect your state of mind and your mood. Now, sometimes medication can be a really, really useful thing to get you a bit more clarity in the way that you can access.
So it can be a tool.
Completely. It's a bit like an antidepressant. Again, this baffles me that doctors give people antidepressants. Again, it's not a criticism of doctors, but they don't explain really how it works or what it's doing. And I like to explain it in very simple terms. It's like, if you imagine a waterfall of clear water just flowing, 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 and that's like your thoughts. Clear, clarity, and then you throw in a load of crap in there. It gets bogged in and it gets all dirty and it gets contaminated. That's what we're doing when we're overthinking and holding on to thoughts. We're getting that clarity is gone. It's now contaminated. An antidepressant can be a great giant sanitizer, giving you a bit more clarity. But part of the reason why the whole nation would say everybody's on antidepressants and they're addictive, which I do not believe that they are, is because nobody teaches you how to stop throwing the shit in again. So you come off the tablets and people will say, I've been off antidepressants for 6 months. I need to go off on them because I'm really anxious again. Because you've not learned or understood how to not be throwing that crap in again.
And that's the missing piece.
That's
right?
the missing bit. So what we're doing is we're medicating, or we're doing this, or we're like, try and control your thoughts. Again, you know, I don't want to poo-poo other therapies. They just haven't worked for me. But if you are in a traditional psychology area where they say, right, it's about controlling your thoughts and, you know, doing things with your thoughts, which if you're in a good state of mind, again, can be quite straightforward. So for a lot of people, and for me, like CBT is a bit like, oh, it was a plaster. It's like, oh, yeah, I can control it. The minute something happens in your life and your state of mind dips, well, good luck with that.
Right.
Can't control any of it. It's much more about acceptance. This is where I'm at. And that's what I've done over the last year, is that's what's served me really well, is in those lows and those dips to be able to go, this is normal. This is a normal human experience. All I need to do right now is show myself love and compassion, as opposed to, how do I get out of this?
Stop trying to fix it, solve it.
Nothing to fix. There's nothing to fix. And that's the problem with mental health in general. It's like, how do we fix people? How, you know, one of the hardest things for me would be to get reviews. I've got a whole page of people sending me anonymous reviews. I would never ask for somebody to put their name to it, because people don't like to, because of that, because there's an implication that if you are getting help with your mental health, you are somehow broken. To me, it's the opposite. Like, a lot of the work I do is now, it's like future-proof ourselves. Because I had this understanding, that's how I was able to get through a year of cancer treatment and my business still be successful. That's because I know what I know.
Do you think across the board we misunderstand mental health?
Massively.
And as a result, I'm interested on your thoughts on the conversation around, are we over-diagnosing people? Are we over-prescribing medication? What's your thoughts?
To me, and it's controversial, and particularly around, you know, like ADHD or all of these different areas where we get diagnosed, and you can see it online, this battle, we're over-diagnosing, and people say we're under-diagnosing. And again, we can get so caught up in this narrative. Again, if we take a step back, for me, a diagnosis is where you're at, not who you are at your core.
Big difference.
Big difference. Now, I might get shouted at for this, but I'll put myself out there. Even if you've been diagnosed with something like ADHD, which is, okay, let's say in simple terms, maybe slightly different wiring in the brain. I've got a cousin, for example, who is severely autistic, like so severe that you would walk in the room within 2 seconds, you would know that he was severely autistic. So I appreciate that his wiring is different. His brain makeup is different. Does that mean that he is not able to access more peace of mind through awareness and understanding? No. And so people will come to me, and I get often people come to me saying, do you do diagnosis? And I'm like, no, I don't. I can work with you alongside it, because all I'm interested in is that you feel better in yourself every day. And sometimes a diagnosis can be helpful for that, because like, oh, now it all makes sense. But the bit that's missing is like, all makes sense, now what?
Yeah.
And it can make sense, and you can go, you know, even, so my husband, it's fine. My husband, we joke about him being ADHD, because he has got a lot of significant traits of ADHD. So have I, actually.
Okay.
And so for him, somebody suggested to him, why don't you go and get assessed for ADHD? And he then, you know, comes to me as like, what do you think? Because he knows that I'm going to have an opinion on it.
Of course.
And I'm like, listen, love, if you want to go and get a diagnosis, absolutely go for it. But what I'd like you to consider is what you want that for. What happens then? How's that going to change anything? Because the way I see it is, you have spent the last year solo parenting a 3-year-old, watching your wife go through cancer treatment. You are extremely stressed, as anybody would be. And a lot of your ADHD traits have come out in full force this year. Is that a coincidence?
Right.
So whatever however we define ourselves, however we see ourselves, there are moments in the day, if you've got a diagnosis of something. So with me, with my anxiety, there were moments in a day where I wasn't presenting or experiencing being an anxious person. But the minute I would get stressed, mine would come out in anxiety. For other people, they might be more susceptible to depression or low moods. Does that mean that's who they are? No, that's just an experience that they're more susceptible to.
But people,
when they're
because
stressed.
but then it reinforces it as an identity statement.
Of course it does.
And they don't see it like what you're saying. So then they go, oh, it's my ADHD, or it's my, and they use it as if it's part of them rather than it's just part of their experience.
My anxiety was my sole focus for years. My anxiety, I'm anxious. That's why I set up in business, because I didn't feel that I would be able to hold down a proper job. I used to forge doctor's notes, right? So I'd go to the doctors to be off work because I was really bloody anxious. And I'd be so embarrassed about it that I'd go to the doctors and they would put anxiety. I remember once changing a doctor's note to say something like anxiety induced from flu or something ridiculous. I added something to it that felt more palatable for me.
Wow.
Because at that stage, I thought, this is me. Whereas now, you know, if I was starting to have panic attacks again, when I found out about the cancer treatment, I thought, if I get to a point where I am so stuck in my head and my thoughts that I'm anxious, I would not think twice about going to the doctors and getting help and getting medication because I'm human. And again, therapists and people that work with mental health, it's like, oh, I have to, you know, if I had to go and get tablets again, or if I had to do that, that means therefore I failed. To me, it's the opposite.
Right.
It's listening. Sometimes your wisdom guides you to go to the doctors to get help.
When it comes to diagnosis, I think a lot of people will say, oh, it's like a relief because now I've got some clarity. Now with that, I can maybe educate myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like you say, we can maybe look at medication. Overall, from your experience, do you think getting diagnosis plays out to be net positive or net more negative?
It can be both. Because again, we're open to our state of mind and our mood. And if we're in a low mood and we're feeling insecure, we might see the fact that we have traits of this, that, or the other as a hurdle. It's getting in our way. And then there'd be other times when we're in a better state of mind and we're like, this makes me fucking amazing that I'm like this. I'm creative, I'm imaginative. So I don't think it's one way or the other. And it always, again, it's not a criticism, but I see, I think my husband brought me a list of like, here's the traits of ADHD. And half of the traits were the opposite of the other half.
Right.
So focuses on this, this and this. Doesn't focus on anything. I'm like, they're just opposites. Because what we're talking about is human beings.
Right.
And yes, we do all have different tendencies and different ways in the way that some of us have blue eyes, some of us have brown eyes. It doesn't need to be a massive issue if we embrace who we are and recognise that the human experience works in this way. State of mind fluctuates. That's depending on where your state of mind is how you will experience your thinking, but thoughts are neutral. You understand that. It doesn't matter how your brain is wired, how severe your diagnosis is, you can access more peace of mind with that understanding.
Do you think the work you do is considered controversial?
Yes, I am considered controversial in that when I changed from going to be a coach from a psychotherapist, people say, I actually saw a post once that at the time really pissed me off, but now on reflection, it shouldn't really have bothered me. But someone saying, be suspicious of anybody who works in therapy that then turns to being a coach.
Ooh.
Because it usually means they've either been struck off or something's happened where they've had to go to this lower ebb of coaching, which to me it isn't a lower ebb, it's just different approach.
Sure.
But people were cynical about it. And even colleagues in my area was like, why are you doing that? Why would you not want to climb this hierarchy of psychotherapy? So you're a psychotherapist, then you become a supervisor, then you become a trainer and you go up the ladders. And again, the only reason I changed is because I couldn't keep sharing in the way I was sharing based on the experience that I now had in life.
Because it wasn't getting you the results.
I was getting the results with the coaching and what I now understood. a million times faster and accessing, it sounds so cringe and cheesy to say it, accessing a gratitude and contentment in my life that I never imagined possible. Never imagined was possible. I'd have been happy with even half of the contentment I feel now would have been a good, successful life. I never thought it was possible.
Wow.
And that I cannot continue to sit in a room with someone and ask them about their childhood and try and pinpoint this to that and this to that, when actually I know with just more of an understanding of basic human nature, you're going to be more present naturally and you're just going to enjoy life.
So what were some of the fundamental differences between that school of thought and the new one? Was it things like more focusing on the past and trying to get to the root versus what I'm hearing is just acceptance, be more present, we don't need to talk about the past? Is it those kind of things, or is it something else?
It's more about, it's like, so people might think, well, there's a lot of use in talking about your past. And really the approach I'm coming from is, if you want to sit and talk about your past and your trauma, I am here to listen. I am all ears. I'm here to listen with compassion, to give you a safe space. If you come to me and you don't want to talk about your past, because people talk about doing the work, you have to process this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that to feel better.
Really?
No.
And I almost question if sometimes it slows the work down, because I think when we look at the past or a label or an identity, it can be an excuse to not move. Oh yeah, but I can't because I've got this, or I've been through this, and like logically we justify, and logically this isn't going to be a quick process because I've got years of undoing to do, right?
And people we like to complicate things because it's what the intellect does. It's like analysis, information. We get this. You know, there's a manual of that therapists use. It's called the DSM. I don't know what number it'll be up to now. It was on about number 5 or 6 when I was in my training. And if you actually look back at the history of that manual, who created it in the first place was a guy with 0 mental health qualifications.
Oh my God.
Right?
Okay.
He had this idea of putting diagnosis into categories in a book. Somebody picked it up. Somebody liked it. Over time, it's got popular to the point by the time I was training, it was a necessity that you must have that book and you must use that book.
Wow.
The same book that 50 years ago said being gay was a mental illness. Obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what we are basing our diagnosis on. And again, we don't challenge these things of like, who most people will use that book. Same with me. As a psychotherapist, I had no clue the origin of that book.
Yeah.
Or who created
Just
that book. I was told this is the book. Now, that diagnosis book, I can remember being in training, sitting there going, fucking hell, I could qualify for most of these disorders in this book.
Wow.
Yeah? Because of whatever your state of mind is at. Do you feel this? Another one like OCD. Do you feel with, obsessive traits that it's up my OCD? I've always been like this. People will believe if they have OCD that they just have to live with it. Not true. But we just go along with things. And one of the things that this approach does for me is like, I'm looking at it from a perspective, again, of basic human nature. So how do we go back to... So I liken it to like if somebody is doing surgery on a heart and they're specialising in valves or they're specialising in this, they need to really know the basic workings of a heart. Otherwise, you're not going to let them near somebody's heart. In traditional psychology, we are let loose on everybody with a fundamental missing understanding of the basics of human beings. And people won't like me saying that.
Yeah.
And as a psychotherapist, I'll just give you one more example of, I was taught in a really great institute. I love the guy that runs the institute. He's a good friend of mine. And all of this theory that I was learning and all of this stuff. And then we had when I worked at prisons and probation, we had whole courses on learning how to listen to somebody. And now when I look, I was a terrible listener because I was so busy trying to be a good listener.
Yeah.
Active listening, nod your head,
repeat
what they've said back
and
to you.
And listening to respond.
So you're like, oh, have I repeated? Have I?
Yeah.
When actually...
You're doing the opposite.
You just want to show up with an open mind. Again, you'd go to your supervisor and they'd say, what's your treatment plan for this client? And you've only met them once. What do you think they need for the next 2 years? What? It's crazy. Because actually, I don't know what they need from 1 minute to the next. I just want to help them understand their human experience. I don't need to tell them you need this. And again, you'd say, I always remember the therapist saying to me when I'm training, you need to think longer term, Sarie. You're very, very focused short term, and psychotherapy is long term. And again, it's not that he was saying that because he's trying to con people into being in therapy for long, but that's how we understand it. And now it's like come full circle. I love, like, yeah, I'm short term because I'm in and I'm out, and I want you to be enjoying your life. And I don't need to know every detail about your history, how you feel. We can, but we don't need to.
It's interesting that a lot of what you're speaking about really, when I look at the origins of why I started this podcast, which I think now is nearly 6 years ago, and I originally started it with my cousin, and we didn't know it'd be the show it would be today, and it was probably more general self-development, mindset, health, well-being, and obviously money and business was one part of it, and it's evolved now. But a lot of this show began because we just started questioning things and thinking, in many ways, it feels like traditional teaching, traditional education has let us down. A big thing that brought us very close as cousins was Dan, my cousin's mum, passed away at 45 from a brain tumour. And it was all very quick. And he spoke to the doctor, the highly qualified doctor, and said, you know, is there any explanation? Why has this happened? Could it have been prevented? And he literally shrugged and just went, it's just one of those things. And my cousin, and this is why I resonate with your story, was like, I'm not accepting that. And he's on a mission and has been ever since on, it's not just one of those things. We just need to learn more. And I think one thing I think both of us want to make clear is it's not about in any way putting those doctors down or these professionals down. They're doing the best they can with what they're being taught. What it's really about is fundamentally there's a lack of up-to-date understanding of how we really work. And I'm interested with that in mind. What do you feel are some of the steps that needs to be taken so that across the board mental health can start to be understood on a more fundamental level, you know, in terms of our doctors, our NHS, the basic training our therapists are getting? What needs to change?
We need to be more open-minded. The one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, this is the gold standard therapy for anxiety. This is the gold standard therapy for OCD. We can get in our own little corner and our egos get in the way. And we can fiercely protect what we believe is to be true because we've spent years training in that. So we're going to protect that. We've invested money, time, energy. And it's the same with anything. We're going to fiercely protect that. And sometimes it can be really hard to take a step down from that and go, right, this is my ego. You know, a lot of therapists will pride themselves on how many clients they make cry. Oh, they're in touch with their emotions. Like, we don't want to be priding ourselves. Like, crying is great and fine, but also if somebody doesn't cry, doesn't mean they're not having great insight.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, you know, when I used to come out of a therapy session, I'd be like, oh, was that good? Did I do a great session for that client? I don't know, because actually they could say to me, that was brilliant, go away and think I'm never going to her again, because we're not getting the truth of somebody else's experience. And so we don't even need to consider whether we're doing a brilliant job in that session or not. We just need to continue to remain open-minded and be directed by that person of where that's going to go. But again, I think when we're in this hierarchy of, so CBT, again, some people will say that CBT's changed their life. I've worked with a lot of people who've come to me when it hasn't worked for them. But it's not about saying, let's banish CBT, because if it's helped someone, brilliant. I say to people, if standing on your head singing nursery rhymes makes you feel better, do that. That's your prescription. Does it matter? It doesn't matter.
You need to give it a try, maybe.
Well, it'll certainly distract you and you might feel better temporarily.
Right.
But again, but we go to the doctors and people, you're going to instantly get put on a list for CBT because that's what we've done for the last however many years. There's nobody coming in going, is this still what we want? Is this still effective? And unfortunately...
Or is it effective for everyone?
Everybody.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we get caught up in research and papers. And I get it, like, research is important. But again, research is questionable sometimes because who are we researching? When are we doing it? Has things changed? And... you know, we will just go with what feels safe. And usually that's what we've already been doing for however long. And that's my biggest thing is like, let's be open-minded. And I love, because I've actually had people come to me and say, my doctor told me to get in touch with you.
Wow.
They've given my number, because they wouldn't be able to say in their practice, let's officially refer to Sarie who's doing this coaching, but they say, listen, go and speak to this woman. Because they see the outcomes.
In other words, the shift is happening.
The shift is happening. It is definitely happening. And
Yeah.
I think there's more people now sharing what I share, all across the UK, all across the world. There's a lot more people in the US doing it, and all across Europe. And I'm a part of that community now of trying to train other people and drive people to be able to share this understanding, with other people.
This episode is sponsored by Dr. Tania King-Mohammad. She is the high-ticket woman, the #1 best-selling author of the high-ticket method, and one of the most sought-after high-ticket experts in the game. Basically, if you are an entrepreneur who is serious about scaling their business, you need to grab a copy of her book right now. Literally, I have read it and it is a game changer. It will blow your flipping mind. Tania is the mentor that the entrepreneurs call once they are finished playing small and are ready to start charging their worth. Working with Tania is all about creating consistent high-ticket sales and doing it in a way where you can create a freedom-level income without the constant hustle and grind like a lot of the other mentors bang on about. If you're listening to this show, you already know you're somebody that's meant for more and is willing to go and work for it. So basically, you need to get into Tania's world. Go and grab a copy of her book right now on Amazon and make sure you give her a cheeky little follow on Instagram. She is at Freedom with Tania, and she's consistently giving strategies, tips and advice over there for free, so you can start charging your worth and actually starting to believe in it.
I want to talk a little bit about, because a lot of people that listen to this show are entrepreneurs, business owners, ambitious people that are putting themselves out there. And I know this is it's part of who you are, it's what you do, but it's also, they're the sort of people you work with. Something we spoke about before we started recording today is authenticity. And I think a lot of people say they're being authentic and they want to be, but actually truly being authentic in a world where we're scared, if I say the wrong thing, my business is over, or, the judgment and things like that. And I'd just love to have a bit of a deeper conversation on this subject, because I think it's so easy to surface level go, just be authentic, be your true self. And one thing I'm interested in, I know you mentioned to me, is first impressions.
Oh, yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Also the fact, judgment. We do judge.
Yeah, of course we do.
Let's
It's survival.
Right, okay.
Survival. So I'd mentioned to you that when I first came across you, can't remember how I came across you, but it'll be via Lisa. And I didn't know you from Adam, didn't know anything about you. I didn't know that you'd done your Take That singing in the past and stuff like
We
that.
don't talk about that.
Yes, please. Yes, we do. I didn't know anything about you. And I can't remember what the comment was that you made, but I can remember my response was something along the lines of, well, he's an arrogant little. Yeah, he's a bit cocky or a bit sure of himself. Now, thankfully, I have enough self-awareness to know that's a me issue, not a you issue. And so it got me curious. Oh, why have I taken to think that about him? And I don't actually know him from Adam. Now, I'm able to do that, and I wasn't able to do that before. And what I would have done before is probably gone, oh, I'm not going to, I don't want to be friends with him type thing. And it stops us and limits us from so much because we go based off a thought that we have. And it's natural for us to walk into a room and instantly judge everybody in that room.
Yeah.
It's survival.
So again, coming back to acceptance, that's almost like, that's the first thing we have to all acknowledge, is that's normal. It's okay
We're
to
all
judge
doing
things.
it. Yeah, we cannot not judge. If we didn't judge, we'd be dead.
Right. And it's inauthentic to go, oh, I'm not a judgmental person.
It's bullshit. And when I hear it, it sends a shiver down my spine. I'm like, well, I'm judging you right now.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we judge. However, there is a massive difference between that. And unfortunately, not everybody does have the awareness to be able to see it's the them problem, not the other person. And what they do is they then project that out to the other person and are unkind or vile to somebody or say something out loud about their appearance. I don't need to like how people look. I don't need to like what people say. But that's because of my experience of life, my perception and my judgment. Does that mean they need to change? Absolutely not. Does that mean I've got a right to say to them, I don't like that? No. It's none of my business.
So when you reflect on that instant, and I wish you knew what I'd said. Can you not remember what I said?
I don't know whether it was just like knowing you now, you were probably, and this is what one of the things I love about you, by the way, is that you're very sure in your posts of like, this is my opinion and I'm sticking to it. And even though this is going to piss a few people off, I'm going with it.
Okay.
And I love that. But obviously, whatever was going on with me at the time, when I was going through treatment, because of where I was in a lower state of mind, things would have bothered me that wouldn't normally bother me. So I was on high alert. So I'm like, do I like that? Do I like this? And what I would then be able to do is go, come off social media, Sarie. What are you doing? Why are you trying to look for things to piss you off? Because that's what I was doing. Because I was like, everybody else is having fun. I'm in bed again. I've got chemo again. It's not fair. Yeah. And all that does is create more suffering. So thankfully I can recognise that and go, right, if I'm jealous of everybody right now, what I need to do is come away from that and come back into my own space.
And we all have our, obviously for you, that's quite an extreme case of like the last year going through cancer treatment and things like that. So you really would have at times been vulnerable to being on high alert and those kind of feelings of jealousy and so on. But I think we all have our versions of that.
Totally.
And if we're not careful, I think this is why half the problems in the world exist, or all of the problems really.
All of them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's we're not aware that, like you say, it is a me problem, because on a different day, on a different perspective, you might have really agreed with me, for example. And this is something I say to people, and I've said for years, when it comes to building a personal brand, showing up on social media. I've had numerous experiences now of this where people have gone, he's a knob, don't like him, don't agree with him. Oh, but he's right about that. Oh, but actually now I'm seeing what he said a year ago slightly differently. Oh, actually now, how much does it cost to work with you? And then they become a great client.
Experience
because
of you.
Their perceptions change. I've been saying the same thing for years, and I think that's the way you've described that is such a really great way of putting it. Is if you can be sure in yourself and put your opinion out there and be consistent in that, that doesn't mean that people's responses are going to be consistent.
No.
People will change because it's based on what they're going through in that moment.
It is, and also your state of mind's fluctuating, so you're going to feel insecure sometimes about your own voice being out there.
Yeah.
You know, but that's just human nature. You know, that is normal, and it's more about, all comes down to being comfortable with the discomfort. And so for me, I can put something out there, and then a week later I think, I probably wouldn't say that now, or maybe I shouldn't, or should a second. And I always stop myself because I'm like, no, that was my opinion based on my thinking and my state of mind at the time, and it is valid. Just because that's changed doesn't make that wrong. This is just now another opinion, and then it goes. If we went along with the ebbs and flows, but what happens is people get so extreme because their ego is like, I'm going to fight this opinion to the death, rather than somebody having. Recently with listening to one of Lisa Johnson's podcasts with Lindsay and Regina about racism and all of that stuff, and marginalised inclusivity. Yeah. And for me, I really enjoyed it because I was like, oh, I do have inherent racism, and I can, and not in the way that I'd be like, oh, I'm racist, but I've got mixed race people in my family, for example, and listening to that, I was like, I do have racism because I don't understand their experience. I love them dearly, but actually, and this is what's missing, is we get to this point where we're like protecting ourselves against other people's opinions, as opposed to seeing we're all bloody human beings at the basis of this.
And we're all being led by our perception, our biases, our experiences.
We get it wrong.
All the time.
All the time. But it's owning it and taking responsibility for, like, I might have a really strong view and opinion on something, but that's okay if somebody else has a different one. And I don't need to close myself off from even being open to hearing what that is.
And equally changing it.
Yeah. Changing our mind. People don't like changing their mind because then it feels like, oh, I've gone back on that now. So what?
It's something I've really worked on. I think in the last few years, I've sometimes questioned. So I'll have a really strong view on something, And then I might have the opposing strong view a year later.
Yeah.
And I've questioned, does that make me weak? Is that because I'm easily manipulated? I think some people would say maybe. But really, I think I'm just really open to what you spoke about there, which is we're all just getting through life trying to do the best we can, and we get it wrong a lot.
Yeah.
And having the courage to drop that ego and go, yeah, I've got a totally different view now.
Yeah. And one of the most beautiful things about life is that we can do that.
Mm.
That we're only ever one thought away from a fresh thought, fresh feeling, fresh experience. That to me is what is so wonderful about life and business and opportunity.
Yeah.
If we just stayed in that one lane and just said, well, I've got to live by this now forever because that's where I started, like, we're missing out.
Yeah. And I think there's been so many things where I've put, because my natural personality, I think, is to be quite, when something excites me or I'm passionate, I'll go all in on it. I'm not going to sort of dip the toe. I've generally been somebody who's okay with taking risks and things. But what that does is sometimes for you to, on a public level, epically fail.
Yeah. And that's fine.
And people are going, he shouldn't be doing that, he shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, I should. And then it doesn't work. And I'm like, told you. But I would rather be in my shoes, having learnt through the experience of committing and going all in every time than I would sat on the sidelines going, shouldn't be doing that. Oh, I was right. I got it right. Sat there with the popcorn.
And there's no right or such thing as actually as a right or wrong decision in my view.
Okay.
It's just a decision that we make. Because we're only ever basing, oh, that was a wrong decision. If I'd have done this. Well, you're making that up because you didn't, so you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
So anything in the past is now an illusion. Anything in the future is illusion. All you know is right now. I suppose the one area with that, though, where I would say my experience has been a bit different, I am not... To me, for me, there was a difference between taking risks, which I'll always take risks.
Okay.
But I could also be quite impulsive.
Right.
So sometimes I would take risks, but with a sense of urgency, and I'd be impulsive. One of the things I'm probably better at now is being willing and open to taking risks, but being able to just pause for a little bit and make sure it's just not an impulsive, oh, I'm excited and I'm going to do this because I'm doing it.
That's a great point. And I think I'm the same. That's something that doesn't come natural to pause.
Yeah.
But I'm more aware to pause
and
have a conversation. And I think as well, have a conversation with somebody you know naturally is maybe more towards the opposite end of the scale, just to balance that. So I think a lot of business owners will resonate this. You try and build a team of people that are opposites in certain ways, because it's like, so our bookkeeper, financial person in my business is my dad. And the reason being is he hates taking risk. He is all data. We have to have a plan for the next 25 years. Like the complete opposite. But I actually value that. Don't get me wrong, it's taken some figuring out how to navigate that when you are polar opposites in that way. But I think sometimes that's useful just to hear the other perspective. Pause. If you still want to do it, still do it. But doing so knowing you've had that pause.
Yeah, you're not asking other people for them to convince you and make the decision for you. You're asking for an opinion so that you can open your world up a little bit to see things. And I've got a VA that, well, I feel like, you know, she's way more than a VA, but she's worked with me for 8 years now. I am a creative person. I love coming up with stuff. I love just showing up and doing things there and then. And she's a great finisher. So I dump everything on her. And then I get this amazing sales page, email sequence, all of that. And what she's really good at, and sometimes when I'm like, right, I've got this idea and I want to do this as well. And she's like, can we just wait? Can we just finish that?
Pause.
And then can we? And I'm like, she's right. And then she messages back, I'm sorry for being bossy. I know it's your business. I know, no, it's brilliant. It's what I needed to hear. Yeah, exactly that.
We've covered a lot. And I hope that in the messiness of us just having a chat about, you know, all the different things, I hope people are pulling out some really valuable things. But if there was a key core thing you'd love the listeners to take away from this chat, something that genuinely is going to make the world a better place if we all take this on board, what would that thing be?
So it gets very cheesy, but I remind myself of this all the time, and it was one of my wonderful mentors, Dick and Bettinger, that said, you need to go within, find love, and then just give it away. But you can't miss the going within bit. Go within, find love, and give it away. And if we all just went around doing that, it'd be a marvellous place to be.
I think it's right I give my first impressions on you.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Because you gave me your judgment.
Yeah.
You thought I was an arrogant dick.
I don't know if I thought you were as a dick, but I thought he's very sure of himself. And then when I found out you did take that, I was like, he's a
makes
performer.
sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Go on, spill it. Don't filter yourself. I can see you filtering.
No. This is what I love about you, and this is why I'm doing this. I'm being vulnerable. This doesn't come natural to me, and I'm doing it. I'm challenging myself because this is what you are, is somebody who's done that work and does that work to not filter, to be that honest. So my first impressions of you was I also thought, God, she's sure of herself.
Yeah.
Who does she think she is?
Love it.
And I just always remember we were in Malta and there was a couple of us just having a chat mid-flow, and you just came in and very quickly, owned the room. And you were talking about everything. Sex, life, really, really open. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't remember what she said her name was. But I know
You don't need to know my name.
I know a lot. And I just thought, just you talking about that judgment today, and it's interesting, like you said, it's an us problem. It's why was that? Was it because I was insecure? Because I'm known for being the oversharer and the confident one.
Yeah.
And just like you said to me, that exact judgment is one of the things I love about you. I absolutely adore it about you. You're one of the most, when we talk about authentic, it really is. You're happy to be judged. You're happy to be misunderstood because of the stuff you've spoken about, which is we can't control it anyway.
No, and it doesn't. If it affects me, it affects me because my version of it affects me. And I think that, and it's interesting when you say that in Malta, because I didn't know anybody in that room.
And you presumably would have been quite nervous and maybe trying to, I don't know.
Well, I wasn't particularly nervous because,
Okay.
again, I don't really get that nervous about meeting new people. But maybe one of the things that people can find uncomfortable is that I'm not going to filter myself just because you don't know me.
That's the thing I pick up on you.
Yeah.
And not many people do that because there's that, I have
What
to
will they
filter
think?
myself.
I'm like, you may as well just get to know me straight away because you're gonna. Let's cut out the bit in between where we're like, and this is me, and this is the version that you're always going to get, and you might get a slightly quieter version of that or a slightly more giddy, loud version of that. Not so much anymore because I don't really drink, but it's like this is me, and it's about being secure in who you are, and also that not everybody's going to like you, but that's okay because it's their internal version of you.
It's something I am proactively working on so much, is being okay with it, because I know still that I do want to be liked by everyone. And when you say about showing up online, giving strong opinions, I kind of do it because I know it's what we need to do in order to, we know when it comes to marketing, building a personal brand, you've got to stand for stuff.
You may as well do that than not be seen or heard.
But at the same time, I still struggle with it. And I'm really, again, part of the reason for me going, right, I'm going to be brave now, I'm going to tell you what I genuinely thought and so on, is really sitting in that discomfort.
Yeah, and don't change that because, you saying, I want to be liked for everyone. To me, when someone says they want to be liked for everyone, it's a bit like saying, I want a superpower where I can wear an invisibility cloak. Well, you can't.
Yeah, good luck, yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
So why would you bother trying? And that's not about saying, sod everybody. It's about doing it from a place of love and compassion and respect. I respect other people's opinions. Years ago, I wouldn't be like that. I'd be like, my opinion is the only opinion. Now I'm like, this is my opinion and I'm going to stand by it, but I'm also going to respect everybody else's different.
Which again is something I've really had to and do have to work on, because that's a trait of mine that I've had for a long time.
We all do. It's not a final destination. It's an ongoing for all of us.
Sarie, thank you so much. I honestly just find you so inspiring. And everything you've been through, I think it's the extremity of it. I'm sure there'll be people listening to this that still, even though they've heard you share so much today, they'll still be like, but wow, that is impressive to go from that level of anxiety and then the things you've been through with the cancer diagnosis and still be here 11 years, no anxiety attacks whatsoever. This level of truth, vulnerability, and a willingness to get it wrong is very, very rare. And I just think it's beautiful. Just before we finish, some of the general questions that I ask all guests.
Yes. Ooh.
Some of them are quick-fire things. So first one is, what is some of the worst advice you've ever received in your life and why?
Ooh.
It might have been well-meaning. It might have come from a good place. But as you've gone through life, you've gone on to see that actually that was bollocks.
Probably from my mum. Soz mum.
Sorry, Mum.
My mum is a very private person.
Right.
Who doesn't like people showing off or bragging. And I always remember even her, like, with my GCSE results, like, don't be telling everyone them because not everybody will get those results.
Really?
That type of thing.
Wow.
And even now on social media, she will say, oh, you shouldn't be putting all that stuff out there. And I'm like, it's putting our roof over our heads, mother. You know, it's like, this is what I do. This is how. So if I'd have listened to my mum, I'd have been very understated and very hidden and very
not you.
shy, not me, yeah.
Okay, flip side, some of the best advice.
Best advice. Ooh. Again, I can't, like, I'm just wanting to overcomplicate in my head, but literally, for me, is just in this understanding with all of my mentors, is just one small moment at a time. And every time I get stressed or overwhelmed, it's because I'm no longer in a moment at a time. It's only ever the reason.
That's so powerful. Okay, quite often when we listen to podcasts, I think we'll put the guest expert on a pedestal because they're the person sharing their wisdom, their expertise. But one thing that's been really apparent in this conversation anyway is that we're all ongoing, working, messy progresses.
Yep.
And so with that in mind, if you're happy to share, what is one thing that you're struggling with right now?
Yep.
And how are you working through that?
So that's very easy for me. Parenting. Parenting my 3-year-old. Since going through cancer treatment, her dad has solely looked after her, pretty much. She's seen me really ill in situations where I'd hate for her to see me, like really ill. Can't get my head out of a bucket for hours on end. And obviously with a small child, they want to come and see, where's mum? But then there was times where I wasn't well enough even for 2 minutes. So she'd see me like that and then she'd be taken away. So she got to the point where she's scared to be on her own with me. And as a mum, that is so hard because, again, I've had to let my ego go with this because my ego's like, you're the mum. You gave birth to her. It's natural for a mother to have that bond. And I'm like, well, actually, we're not in natural, normal circumstances. No. Dad has brought her up pretty much. He actually did maternity cover for 9 months when she was born and I went back to work. And then with the treatment, she's been primarily brought up by her dad. And so for me, I struggle now with the transition coming back in of me separating out my ego and how I want to be perceived as a mum versus my reality right now. And I've had to try, and I don't do this very well still, but I have to try not take it personally when she's vile to me, she's horrible to me, she's pushing my boundaries because she wants dad. And it's hard and it's heartbreaking and I cry regularly about it. But all I'm doing is, again, just reminding that what I said before is like, go within, find love and give it away. If I go within, find peace of mind and compassion for me that it's okay to feel shit about this because I'm a mum and I hate the fact that she's scared of being on her own with me. And I need to own that. And then when I feel more comfortable in myself, I can then go and be a loving mum to her, even when she's horrible. So one of the practical things I've been doing is she'll have a meltdown and a tantrum. I want my dad. And my reaction is to go, don't get your fucking dad there,
of
right?
course.
And I've said that,
Okay.
I've said that. But actually, what the best thing I do is I say, do you want a hug? And then most of the time, not all the time, she'll go, yeah. And then yesterday she didn't. She gave me a hug and she's like, the tears just keep coming. I'm like, that's okay, let's have a hug. But how I am in myself will dictate how that goes. And I'm still getting it very wrong a lot of the time.
I honestly feel that this has been a life-changing episode for me.
Oh.
And obviously I've already heard some of your story and know you to some degree, but just hearing so much about... And interestingly, it goes back full circle to a lot of it is just repetition of the same principles, which is come back to the present. Yeah. You know, accept the discomfort and sit with it and stop trying to make everything perfect. You know, even just in that example there, it's those same...
It's the stuff that we know intellectually, but we ignore when we're in a low state of mind. And so the more we understand it on a deeper level, and when you have insights and shifts in your actual perspective, you can't lose that. And it's there. And even when you're in the chaos and I'm like, oh, I want to scream, go and find your fucking dad. Because of what I know, I'm like, very quickly, my wisdom is like, come on, come back. And then I can have a very different experience. And that doesn't mean I don't do the same thing again 5 minutes later, because we do. But it gets less often.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
So if people are like, I need to connect with you, I need to get more of your work, I need to see your content, where would you direct them? Where's the best places we can follow you and find you?
So you can find me on all social media, Sarie Taylor Coaching, or you can go to unrestrictedbusiness.co.uk and it's all on there.
And the final question is, what is your personal definition of success?
Health. Without it, you've got nothing. And don't do what I did and wait until it hits you in the face, where you prioritise yourself. And I'm a big advocate, and obviously because of the job that I'm in, that we can do all of the things to make us healthy. We can exercise, we can eat well, we can do this. But if you are not managing your stress levels, you are doing yourself a disservice.
Sorry, thank you.